creatine obviously has its roots primarily from the sporting perspective in terms of bodybuilding and the strength power sports. However, endurance athletes, I call it the run, bike, swim sports or the podium sports. Obviously, running is different than swimming or cycling, because running, you're carrying your body weight, cycling, your body weight supported, swimming, your body weight supported, paddling, my body weight supported. How would you address the use of creatine for those kinds of athletes?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and it requires a little bit of context because if we just look at steady state, moderate intensity, continuous exercise, and we understand metabolism, the creatine energy system is not really involved in that particular type of event. But any event where there's a change in pace, or there's like hills that you have to sprint up, or even finishing kicks in particular races, that's really, really important. I think that creatine energy system can be important for that. And then we also know that creatine combined with carbohydrates can bring in more glycogen into your muscle as well, and that could be a benefit for endurance individuals as well. So there's some context that's required to say that creatine can be a benefit for endurance athletes. And as you mentioned, perhaps the water retention and gain in body mass could be a detriment for runners, for example, that have to carry their body weight. But for cyclists, rowers, kayakers, stand-up paddleboard, whatever, swimmers, that increase in body weight is really not a negative thing. And having a better kind of high intensity energy system to perform those bursts of activity could really be a benefit for those endurance athletes.
Yeah, Tony, you work with athletes that do strength power training, they do endurance training. I mean, the fight sports are among the most, if not the most complicated sports to train for. What's your philosophy in terms of when they should take creatine? And if there are some athletes who should not, let's say they gain weight too easily, they want to be in a lower weight class, things like that.
Yeah, honestly, I have not found too many people that have debilitating weight gain from it that can't be easily manipulated. So I'm an advocate, just like the gentlemen who were joining us, Darren and Scott, that fighters should be on it all the time. For a host of reasons. So the neuroprotective benefits, right? Potential recovery aspects, immunoprotection. I mean, all of these systems are being taxed significantly, particularly during caloric restriction when you start getting 6, 7, 8 weeks out. So I've never had any limitations on it other than, as we discussed, even in our paper too, what I might do if first of all, with a fighter, it's hard to get them to do anything all the time. Yeah. So, I get worried when they cross the street by themselves. Yeah. Never mind, at them adhering to everything. But that said, what we will do often is upfront the creatine early, so we can see if there's, when the calorie intake is relatively consistent early in camp. Did they put any weight on? How much over the period of 2 weeks, maybe 14 to 12 weeks out? And then we have to account for that. It's just something that potentially maybe we have to address as we get 2 weeks out. And both Scott and Darren have told me that, after 10 to 12 weeks of consistent ingestion, if we titrate a little bit come week 2 and week 1, we're going to still retain the benefit anyway. So we might pull it back a little bit. And you're talking about cutting it in half potentially, right? So anyway, from that perspective, I think it's not good for the fighter. I think it's outstanding for them. And it may be the one supplement above and beyond all that they demand most. And if there's any manipulation necessary, you can work it easily, right? And gentlemen, am I correct in saying if somebody was on 10 grams for 10 to 12 weeks and titrated just a little bit over a couple of weeks, much of that benefit would sustain? Am I correct? Or
yeah, absolutely. There's evidence to show it takes 4 to 6 weeks for creatine from saturation levels, if that's even a thing, to go back down to baseline levels. So it takes a long time. So yeah, if you go off creatine for a week, it's not going to have a big impact on your muscle creatine levels.
Yeah. Eric Holtman was the first study to do it in 96. He actually showed you don't need 10 to 12 weeks. In 7 days, you could do it, or 30 grams or 3 grams for 30 days. And it took about 30 days to come back. But Vandenberg was the other one that put it in real life terms in young females. That took 28 days. They're young people. We've done a study where we measured them 12 weeks post, and they still maintain some strength. So from a decreasing intracellular creatine might take 30 days, but the
Okay.
muscle has that so-called memory. You're still going to get the benefits after. So if
Right.
they say I want to cycle and go whatever, and again, the study's never been done, which is shocking, but you could go on it for 4 weeks. That's plenty. And if they want to take 4 weeks off, sure, you're still going to get the benefits.
Got it.
Do you need to
by-
cycle it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding to know. Really good. And by the way, they are tearing through it. Okay, so
Yeah.
they are, it's not as if they're taking it and it's sitting around just waiting for them to do something. So they're consuming large amounts of it. So